Hello everybody, welcome to Historical Trends. Today I'm joined by Ross Davis and we're going to be talking about the history of nursing.
When you think of nursing, you may think of Clara Barton and Flora Nightingale and many others.
True.
Regardless of what you think, the nursing profession has been one of the most respected in history.
Oh, absolutely, because people are always getting sick and they always need somebody to take care of them.
Oh, yes, yes.
Those are certainly the big name stars. But when did nursing start?
There was no exact date of when.
Yeah, I can't imagine there would be. I mean, back in the distant past.
See, there was one exact one mentioned, Saint.
Oh, Fabiola?
Yes,
Saint Fabiola.
Yes,
I always liked her name.
She opened the first general hospital, and was a Roman woman of the company of Roman women.
Okay, so this is about 380 AD?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so she's opened a hospital in Rome.
Yes,
Okay.
under the influence of Father Saint Jerome.
Ah, so St. Jerome, St. Fabiola, they're getting into the nursing business.
Yes.
So what made them nurses? I mean, clearly they're taking care of sick people, but did they have any special training?
Training wasn't even necessary. Training that was not even a thing back then.
So they had a heart for it more than they had a set of skills for it.
Exactly.
Okay.
See, for them, they didn't care about nurses or anything.
Because mostly it's done by the family.
Yes.
Okay.
And see, mothers would attend to their kids as to be the nurse.
That's what moms do.
Yes, but they did not believe in the nursing profession. So
having outsiders come in and mess with your kids and stuff. Mom knows best. Okay.
Yes. And see, they thought they could do it themselves, and they weren't any nurses back.
No formal nurses back then anyway. Yeah. Gotcha. So it was an informal system to be sure, but at least by the 4th century, things were evolving into the system that we know today. Let's talk more about this after the break.
Don't skip! Don't skip! Don't skip!
Hello, my name is Christopher Bartlett. I'm the studio manager with the McWhinney History Education Group, and you may be used to seeing my name in the end credits, or sometimes you'll see me sitting here as a special guest host. But right now, I'm here to talk to you about an amazing new opportunity. We have created a Patreon! To put it simply, if you enjoy the content on this YouTube channel, then you can head on over to Patreon, donate money to us, and become a patron. And through your donations, more content will be made. Basically, it breaks down like this. With $10, you will receive a short thank you video from Dr. Frazier and Dr. Fabrizio. With $25, you will be able to take part in a patron-only poll. With $50, you will get swag. These items include a choice between 2 prints of paintings and signed copies of Dr. Frazier's books, Blood on the Bayou and Thunder Across the Swamp. With $75, you will receive exclusive videos that will not be available anywhere else, not on YouTube and not on SoundCloud. These videos will be just for you, the patrons. With $100, your name will appear in the credits. See that right there? That's where your name can be. Finally, for $500, we will send you a signed collector's edition of Phil Collins' book, The Alamo and Beyond. Yes, it is signed by Phil Collins himself. And remember, for all the higher donations you do, you also get the stuff from the lower ones as well. So it's pretty cool. And when we reach our goal of $5,000, Dr. Frazier and Dr. Fabrizio will give you their own personal ranking of the presidents from worst to best. Coming from the perspective of a historian like Dr. Frazier and a political science expert like Dr. Fabrizio, you really don't want to miss their ranking and why they put them in that order. If you enjoy this content and want to see more, if you believe in our mission of making history accessible to everyone, then head on over to our Patreon and donate as much money as you're willing to give. You'll help us continue what we're doing, and you'll get amazing gifts as our way of saying thank you. Now we return to your regularly scheduled programming.
And we're back. Okay, Ross, you've taken us back to 380 and St. Jerome and St. Fabiola. Let's fast forward just a bit into the 19th century and, well, even before that, let's talk about when nursing comes to the shores of North America.
Well, see, nursing continued to develop in Europe throughout the years, and see, during the years of discovery, they made their way to the Americans as well.
Okay, so during all the years of the Black Death and plague and all that, nursing certainly had plenty to do.
Oh, yes.
All right, so when the Americas are discovered, these European traditions are then transplanted.
Yes.
Okay.
And see, in 1645.
That's pretty early on.
Oh, very. Jeanne Mance was a French nurse and founder of the first American hospital in Quebec, Canada. She was a member of the Daughters of Charity.
So the Daughters of Charity is a pretty important organization
Yes.
that kept that nursing tradition alive.
Yes.
All right, so this group actually starts out serving the poorest of the poor in France, but also evolved into a group that cared for the wounded on France's battlefields. In 1660, over 40 houses of the Daughters of Charity existed in France and several in other countries. They made house calls. They treated the sick in their own homes and essentially became a force to be reckoned with in Paris.
Yes.
So nurses are females at this point. Now, you're a nursing major
Yes, sir.
and intend to work in that capacity
Yes.
post-graduation. When do men become nurses?
They've been there all along.
So men have always been there, just haven't been grabbing the headlines.
Yes.
Give me an example of one.
See, in 1783, James Durham, a slave in Pennsylvania, brought his freedom with money earned working as a nurse.
So he was working as a nurse, getting paid for it on the side of
Yes.
his other responsibilities and duties and tasks as a slave, buys his own freedom, and sets himself up as a independent nurse practitioner type.
Possibly, yes.
Okay.
And see. Later, he moved to New Orleans and is credited with being the first African American physician in the U.S. He never had any formal training, however, but he did work with people like Dr. Benjamin Rush.
Oh, that's a big name star from the American Revolution
Yes.
time period. Okay.
To earn skills to make a difference.
Okay, so he goes from Philly, working with Benjamin Rush, down to New Orleans.
Yeah.
And New Orleans at the time isn't part of the United States, but it is part of the Empire of Spain and Empire of France in
Yes.
the United States. Okay, so that's kind of his trajectory. So from nurse to doctor, but with no formal certification, when exactly did trained nurses start coming into the picture?
And we'll see. In 1836, the Sisters of Charity, an American organization based on the old French Daughters of Charity,
Yeah, the ones we talked about before.
yes,
Okay.
began a program called the Nursing Society of Pennsylvania.
Okay.
This program was for training nurses that wanted that to be in the Sisters of Charity.
So they essentially set up a minimum level sort of skills training program as part of this association.
Yes.
The Sisters of Charity and the Nursing Association of Philadelphia, right?
Yes.
Okay.
There was another pioneer nurse that that emerged around at this same year.
All right, so we've talked about the U.S., but now we're going to talk a little bit about British nursing, because there's some big name stars that come from there too.
One was Mary Seacole. She was a British and Jamaican businesswoman and nurse.
Okay, she was in the Crimean War.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
She helped the sick and wounded British soldiers.
Which there were plenty.
Yes. When battle was raging, she gave food, blankets, and clothes to all the soldiers with kindness.
Okay. So it was nice to have kind of a place to
Yes.
to rest and recuperate on the Crimean War battlefields. She set up what was called the British Hotel, if I remember correctly.
Yes. That was called the mess hall.
Informally, the mess hall. Okay.
Yes. And it was a place for the sick to go mainly, so they can just be there and heal.
Be out of the fight for a while.
Yes.
Okay.
And then after that, the profession advanced with British nurse Florence Nightingale, also a nurse during the same war.
Crimean War.
Yes,
Okay.
sir. She changed the face of nursing from a most untrained profession to a highly trained and well-respected medical profession, with every important responsibilities. In 1873, Linda Richards was the first professionally trained American nurse.
Okay.
She established nursing programs in the U.S. and Japan,
Really?
and created the first system of keeping individual medical records.
So hospital records seemed like it would be a big leap forward, so that way you could actually trace patient history.
Yes.
Okay, so quite the innovation. Now, there was probably also a lot of enslaved African American women that took on nursing responsibilities on plantations, etc.
Yes.
I wonder, can you tell me about how they might have transitioned after the Civil War into a tradition of African American female nurses?
Let's see. Mary Eliza Mahoney was perhaps the first African American nurse to study and work professionally in the U.S.
Oh, wow. So she actually goes and gets professionally trained and is recognized as a professional.
Yes.
Instead of just kind of an informal caregiver.
Yes.
Okay.
She also founded. She was also the founder of a National Association of Colored Graduate Nurses.
Okay.
Mahoney spent nearly 30 years from the 1870s into the 1900s working as a private care nurse.
Okay.
She her reputation was impeccable as she worked across the U.S. Eastern Seaboard. At the same time, Clara Barton was the first nurse to ever teach.
Now, you mentioned Clara Barton. She was actually a clerk in the U.S. Patent Office during the course of the Civil War, but left that and began to tend the wounded from the various battles in Virginia.
Yes.
Okay. So by 1881, she was the founder of the American Red Cross, which was actually started earlier after the Battle of Solferino over in northern Italy.
Yes, and too, she was the first president of that association.
So it comes to the U.S., she heads it up. Now we've got a professional organization, the American Red Cross, and they're everywhere now. I mean, especially after disasters and things like that, you see them.
Yes.
Okay.
For others helped develop the field as well. Lillian Dewald.
She was known for contributions to human rights and was the founder of American Community Nursing. She founded the Henry Street Settlement in New York City and was an early advocate to have nurses in public schools. So what exactly was the Henry Street Settlement?
The Henry Street Settlement was founded in 1893 by social worker and health pioneer Lillian Dewald. Based on Manhattan's Lower East Side, Henry Street Settlement delivers a worldwide range of social services, arts, and health care programs to more than 60,000 New Yorkers each year.
So it's still around?
Yes.
With training, of course, came professional organizations. The American Nurses Association, for instance, is a professional organization to advance and protect the profession of nursing. It started in 1896 as the Nurses Associated Alumni and was renamed the American Nurses Association in 1911. So RNs really didn't come about until the late 19th century.
Yes.
All right, so one of them that comes to mind is Ellen Doherty,
Yes.
a registered nurse in New Zealand. Now, she ends up becoming the first that's got a certificate saying I am a nurse and I'm registered as such,
Yes.
and I have the necessary skills and techniques in order to be a professional nurse. So now we're starting to see that trend towards professionalism that we've come to expect today, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So this is an interesting sort of backlog and backstory behind how nurses go from St. Fabiola and St. Jerome in Rome, all the way through these organizations like the Sisters of Charity.
Yes.
And now we're getting into more of a professionalized and systematic approach to training nurses. Man, that is a lot of information to sort through.
Yes.
So what we'll do is we'll have a conversation about this after the break. We'll be right back.
It all started on Valentine's Day in 1986 when a poor but honest theological student was trying to win the heart of an aspiring pediatrician. He somehow stumbled on the recipe for this unique pie, baked her one, and the rest is history. Rejoice, my friend, for today the rare joy brought by this storied pastry is yours.
Pie Masters, your favorite kind of pie.
And we're back. So the nursing profession is starting to get a little more organized and regimented. Where was the first nursing degree ever issued? I mean, certainly institutions of higher learning have gotten involved by the early 20th century. Where did this happen?
It was the University of Minnesota. That school gave out the first BSN, meaning bachelor's degree in nursing.
Okay. Who was Elizabeth Lipfird Kent in this story?
She was the first woman to ever receive her PhD in nursing.
First woman or first African American woman?
It would be
both.
Actually, both.
Really?
Yes.
So the first female ever to receive a PhD in nursing is black.
Yes, sir.
Well, that's an interesting development. So now that we're in the 21st century, tell me why anybody should care about the history of nursing and how we got to this point.
So the history of nursing is important so that people can just look back to it and then after that to see what went wrong.
What went wrong? What about what went right?
What went right is where nurses took care of the patients.
And got trained to do so.
Yes,
instead
sir.
of just kind of making it up.
Yes.
Okay. Now let's go to some of our viewer questions.
Okay.
We've got one. Let's see. It's at Josh Johnson. According to your knowledge, what types of nurses are there? I mean, I've always heard of things like LVNs and RNs, and please help describe what some of these different letter combinations mean.
Okay, so let's see. There's one called LPN. That is called Licensed Practical Nurse.
Okay.
Then after that, there is the traveling nurse.
Okay.
And there is the Or just a nurse, of course. That's the main one.
All right. So is there a hierarchy? I mean, what's the lowest level of certification you can get and be allowed to work with patients?
That would be the licensed practical nurse.
Okay, licensed practical nurse. She's the one that's going to come in, check vitals, things like that. Sort of the lower end functions and stuff.
Yes.
What does an RN do?
RN does way more than that.
Okay, so that's the next step up. Is there a step above RN?
The BSN, actually.
Okay.
Bachelor's degree in science.
Okay, so a BS in nursing is better than an RN, which is better than a LPN.
Yes.
All right, so there's your hierarchy, and then you can go from there, I'm assuming.
Yes. The farthest one you can actually go is the anesthesiologist nursing assistant.
Okay, so all the way up to very specialized sorts of nursing.
Yes.
So that one's the one that passes the gas and makes
Yes.
sure that everything's going right in anesthesiology.
Yes.
The old turn them black and bring them back profession. If she gets it wrong, it may be a permanent nap.
Or either death.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, it's like the dirt nap. All right. So male nurses. I oftentimes think of nurses as being female.
Yeah.
And that's what you usually see. So what do male nurses, why male nurses for starters? I mean, why are you interested in being a nurse? And is there any sort of stereotypes that you have to overcome being a male nurse?
Well, see, me, it's ever since I was 6.
Okay.
It's been my dream to be a nurse.
Really?
Or either a doctor.
Okay.
Okay, because my parents are both doctors.
Okay.
Basically, my whole family is either a lawyer or a doctor.
Okay.
Or just a nurse.
Okay, so they're all professionals.
Yes.
So you thought that might be an interesting profession to take.
Yes.
Okay, do you see any resistance to being a male in a female-dominated profession?
No.
So you'll fit right in with the rest of them. Okay, interesting, because you're kind of taking an otherwise normal track. I mean, men are not all that common in nursing. All right, that's about all the time we have for today. I'm Don Frazier.
And I'm Ross Davis.
Yes, you are. And this has been Historical Trends. Thanks for watching.